Here we are, guys, episode 3 already, and today we have a custom fitting club building specialist in front of us. His playing earnings last year were a career best of £20, which was the first time that he ever beat me. Miles Richardson, pleasure to have you on. Could you start with giving us a background on yourself? And take us way back to before golf, because you've had a nice little career change on the way.
Yeah, so golf was not the sort of first sport for me. Cricket was my game growing up. Um, Played since I was probably about 10 or 11, I reckon. And then sort of when I got to about 20, tried to sort of pursue that professionally. Um, and then started playing sort of second team cricket for Northants, a little bit for Kent, a little bit for Surrey, before finally getting my sort of first team gig for Northants. So I played a little bit of professional cricket before sort of moved into coaching full time. So I turned into a full time cricket coach, and then golf. Golf was always a sort of second sport to me. It was kind of like to the clubs whenever I played cricket. So clubs were always in the car, traveling around the country. But I never really played to any sort of standards. So, sort of played off 14. I think that was probably when I came to see you when I was about 12, 14. And look at me now. So, I mean, it got to that sort of point where I was coaching cricket, standing in the hall when I'd pick up a cricket bat or a stump, and I was practicing my golf swing. And I just sort of thought, I think I'm a little bit obsessed here. I might need a career change. And then during lockdown, obviously no work for me, couldn't coach. Started tinkering with golf clubs, and I was like, yeah, this is a bit of me. I really started getting into it. Started just learning as much as I could. It was just fun, and to be honest, it still is. So yeah, here we are.
Here we are. And now you're at Rochester and Cobham, which is a relatively, well, one of the better clubs in Kent, I would say. So not doing too bad on that front.
No, I kind of lucked out there.
Yeah, you done well there. You done well there.
I did all right.
How did you start in lockdown? What was you just going on YouTube and watching custom fit stuff from there, or what? How did
Yeah,
you
it
about it?
it mostly started on YouTube. Um, just sort of watching videos. I mean, it started off with club reviews, and then I think it just came up on like suggestions, like it does on YouTube. And I saw his channel TXG. You might have heard of it. There are guys over in Canada. I just sort of watched some of their stuff, and I just sort of every video I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I'd go look at my own clubs. I'm like, "Oh, maybe this would help me. Maybe this would help me." And then it got to the point where I'm like, "Can't have been me. It must have been my club's been wrong this whole time." You
Obvious.
know, obviously. That's definitely not the case, by the way. But um, and yeah, just started tinkering. So started off changing my own grips, and then it moved on to changing club heads and shafts, and
Yeah, we've
yeah,
had a few
deeper
conversations
down the
on
rabbit hole.
yeah. Every other week would be a new set of weapons coming into the studio or to the range.
Yeah, I mean, lockdown was the worst thing for me. eBay was just, eBay and Facebook Marketplace just an absolute
Right, so if let's start with some custom fitting stuff then. Why should someone go get a custom fit over just going and buying a set of clubs?
So, I mean, I've had a question a few times from people, sort of higher handicaps saying, "Am I good enough to get a custom fit?" And
Yeah.
my response to that is actually, "Are you good enough to not get custom fit?" Now, if you think about it, if you get like your best players in the world, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, that lot, you could probably give them anything and give them 3 or 4 swings, and they'll work out how to find the middle of the face and work out some sort of shot shape with it. If you get Joe Blogg's 25 handicapper, can make a decent strike on a ball, sort of got a semi-consistent shot. It might be a slice or hook, whatever it is. That's the sort of person who needs help from their club. Now, yes, there are some people who may not be good enough yet to get fit. I think the key thing is just get a consistent strike. Once you've got that ball airborne and you can make good contact, that's when you can get fit. It doesn't need to be thin contact. It needs to be, needs to be making contact with the face.
It needs strike, doesn't it? I think if you've got strike, then you've got some form of ball flight, which then can be custom fit off of.
Yeah, exactly. And no matter what level you are, you'll start to show some sort of consistencies, whether you consistently shank it, get out of the toe, consistently leave the face
consistently shanking it. You can be fitted for that.
You can be. So yeah, it's just, and the thing I love about it most is once you've got custom fit and you've got the right set of clubs, you kind of know that if something's going wrong, it's down to you. And that's what I like. It's not questioning, was that me? Was that the club? It's just a case of, right, I know the clubs are right for me. I'm having an off day. And then you can go to your swing coach and say, look, this is what's happening. It's definitely me. It's not the club. So
yeah, I could have told you that years ago, Miles. So talk about some fits in some stuff in custom fitting. Then I'm always interested in lie angles. So talk about for us what happens if the toe is off the ground and the terminology that comes with it, or if the heel is off the ground. I know it really tends not to. But talk us through that stuff and what it can do.
So lie angle is sort of the angle which the club sits at. So if you've got your toe off the ground, your toe up. Now, quite often you'll see people slightly toe up at dress, which is absolutely fine. We don't mind that because as the club comes into impact, the shaft is actually going to do what we call droop. Okay, so the softer the shaft or the sort of harder we swing, quicker our swing speed, the more that's going to droop. So you may start with that toe up, but actually dynamically for impact, you might be pretty square.
Can I add to that also? The handle is always more up than it is. Well, the handle should be more up and forward than it is at address. So it's always going to bring that toe more down that way as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of what you're looking for from an address point of view. Now, with that, I'm only ever looking during a fitting at your dynamic line. So we use the quad, which can actually show you what the club face is doing at the point of impact. Now, it's quite a funny one. So a lot of people, the old school was always, I want to get that as square as possible. I want it to be like at 0. And that's great. But you can actually be a little bit toe up or toe down to help your start line. Okay, so you can use lie angle. You never really want to be more than sort of 3 or 4 degrees out of 0. But you can use that to really hone in someone's start line. So if they're really struggling with a certain shot shape or something, by going a little bit more toe down may help them. When you really get into the nitty gritty of it, it can actually change strike a little bit as well. So if someone's living in the toe, like hitting the ball out of the toe, sorry, and you get their clubs a little bit more upright, that is going to bring strike a little bit more central as well. So,
okay, so you just mentioned upright. Which way is upright?
Upright is going to be toe up. Okay, so upright.
Yep.
And then flat would be toe digging down into the ground that little bit more. So
yep.
Heel.
Yep. Okay, so what way with those shots? So if you've got toe up, without doing anything to it, what way would that shot tend to go? And then obviously toe down.
So all else being equal, let's say you've got a swing path of 0, a face angle of 0. If your club is upright, you're going to see a ball for a right-handed golfer start to the left. And if you're flat, it's going to start to the right. Now, depending on what club you've got, that's going to be more or less. So if I've got, say, a more lofted club, like a 50 degree, okay, that's by being 2 degrees out with a 50 degree, that's going to adjust your sort of start and finish line by about, I think it's 13 foot, okay? But with a 2-iron, being out by 2 degrees is only 7 foot, okay? Now, the reason that is, the easiest way to sort of think about it is if you've got a flat wall, okay, so you're looking at the wall in your house, you tilt that, that's still pointing forward. If you've got the floor and you tilt that, that's now pointing over to the side. Okay, and that's face plane tilt.
Yeah.
The more loft there is on the club, the more the lie angle is actually affected. The more important that getting the correct lie angle is.
And that's why you tend to see wedges be worked with more than other clubs. You tend, I mean, the biggest one I tend to see is with wedges is the pull shot, and then you change that lie angle a little bit, and it just starts to straighten it out. There's not many good golfers I know that don't have that toe a little bit more down with wedges.
Yeah, so funnily enough, a lot of people go and get fit with driver, they get fit for irons, but no one ever talks about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most important things, not just because it's, you use them so often, but getting that lie angle right on them is so crucial to your start line. So if you get fit and you're 1 degree flat in your iron, well, you probably want to be at least 1 degree, if not 2 degrees flat in your wedges. Because again, going into that sort of droop that we talked about, because I'm not swinging full all the time, that club's not going to droop as much. Okay, so I need to be a little bit flatter to sort of counter that fact. So yeah, people who are standard or flat in their irons definitely need to have their wedges looked at as well.
Yep. Good point. Good point. Right, lie angles ticked. Let's do kick points. Yeah. Is it something that needs to be spoken about, or is it one of those that does it make marginal gains, no gains?
It is completely player dependent, and you can't. It's not something you can just go. It's a good starting point. It's kind of like getting a static fitting where you'll measure someone's height and wrist to floor for length of club. It's a great starting point, but people don't react to things the way they always should. So kick point, you've got high, mid, and sort of low kick points. Theory being a high kick point is lower, a low kick point gets the ball up in the air a little bit easier. But when you actually think about that, you're actually looking at sort of a 6-inch section in the middle of the shaft. When someone says high kick point, they think it's right up in the grip, and low kick point right by the tip. It's actually that sort of midsection, and it's just a little bit softer down at the bottom or a little bit softer at the top. But it's completely dependent on how a player shifts the club. How you can have 2 people that swing at say 80 miles an hour. One of them's got a really short, aggressive swing. One of them's got a really long, slow, smooth swing. They're not going to need the same shaft. They might, sort of launch the ball the same, but they're not going to go into the same shaft. They're loading different. So kick points to me maybe a nice little starting point, and it says high trajectory, low trajectory on them, but realistically, it's more how the player reacts to it.
So would you so if you saw, let's go back to the 80 mile an hour thing that you're talking about, if you saw those people, would you automatically go for something, say the player that moves quite jerky, quite short and quick, would you go to something that has a lower kick point for them straight away, or would it just be reactional to what, or would you
Yeah,
say they might need this? Let's start there, or
it's quite reactional. It depends what kind of movements they're making. I mean, to me, shaft weight is probably going to be more important to them rather than kick points. Kick points it's more of a feel thing to me. You know, where players feel the shaft loading is then how they react and deliver the content relatively. Yeah, so shaft weight, flex again. Flex is massively overrated. If you look at, it's a little bit extreme, but all the long drive guys, you know, go back a few years, they're all using like triple X flex shaft because they're swinging at 150. Now you look at them, they're actually using like senior flex, ladies flex. They want something soft that's going to actually sort of catch up and overtake the hand through point of impact. That's going to give them the most sort of speed. Might not be best directionally, but again, it depends on what the player's trying to get out of their fitting. If they want more distance, I might go a little bit softer. You know, if they already got the distance and they want to tighten dispersion, I might go a little bit stiffer. You know, you can like, go up and down flex depending on what they're after.
Yep. And then so that moves on quite nicely then to shaft weight.
Yeah.
I was always taught as light as you can go until you lose control.
Okay.
Just putting it out there. What's your
Just
thoughts?
putting it out there. I mean, with that, obviously you're talking goers. The lighter you go, the sort of the more club head speed you can generate. In terms of club head speed, length is a big one. So one of the things I always do is go as long as I can until they can't strike it, because you know extra length is going to give them distance. In terms of weight, again, it's completely individual. The theory, yeah, if I've got something lighter, move it quicker. But for some people, they actually, if they can't feel where the club is, if it's almost sort of too light, they'll actually slow down. They're just trying to work it out. You know, their body's way of reacting to sort of where actually is this club. Whereas as soon as you put a bit of weight in their hands, they actually can speed up. So again, that is a little bit player dependent, and to me, that's why fitting is so important because there is no one rule for any player. There's guidelines. You know, everything's a sort of guideline. This should, in theory, do this. This should, in theory, do this. Some people do the exact opposite. So, you know, you can get all the information on the world and then jump on eBay and buy a second-hand set, and you might get lucky, but you also might do the worst thing for your game you've ever done, which is why working with, you know, someone who's got a bit of knowledge, got the data, got the TrackMan, squad, whatever it is, it's just a no-brainer.
Yep. If someone comes into a fitting, is there any stats you'd like them to bring prior or to that session, or will you can you generally just do it from the session, or would more data help?
Data can be good. Data can be good. Obviously, if you've got, you know, working with a swing coach, you can bring data of this is what my 7-iron normally does. This is what I sort of generally see. You know, over a few sessions, I sort of hit it a little bit too high, a little bit too low, whatever it is. And this is what I want to work on. But it can be very much, you know, you react to what you see on the day, but you've also got to work out, is that what I normally? So I've had people come into me who are like, go, okay, what's the sort of, what you're looking for, and obviously what's the shot you don't like, what's the general miss? You go, oh, I normally slice it, and then they come in, they've got a big snapping, and that's always that's always a fun one, because those are the toughest ones. And well, I actually had one not too long ago, came in with a serious case of the shank.
Oh,
and
but was that
it won.
was that a was he did he shank the ball before the fitting? Was he always a serial shanker?
I hadn't. No, not really, not
Oh,
really. But I hadn't even given him a club at this point. This was him warming up with his own club.
oh dear God.
Yeah. So I just said to him, I was like, look, let's be honest, let's just come back another day. And sometimes you have to do that. And to be honest, I think that's part of can
Yeah,
be part of a good fitting. I'm not going to
yeah.
try and because if he normally hits his clubs quite well, but wants something maybe a little bit more forgiving, that goes a little bit further, and he's got a case of the shank, then I fit him into something that he's not shanking, so I might go a little bit shorter or heavier, lighter, whatever works for him. And then he goes back out onto the course, he's swinging it quite well with his new short clubs, and suddenly he's hitting everything out of toe.
He's toe shanking it instead.
Yeah, he's toe shanking it. I've just given him a completely different problem. He's coming back to me in a month going, that ground I just
Yeah, yeah.
that. So sometimes you just got to say to people, let's come back and revisit in a week or so.
So, go through the order that you would fit someone. So where would you start? Would you do anything statically? And then where would you start? Would you start with length? Would you start with lie, blah, 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 and go from there?
Yeah, so I mean, I assume we're sort of talking iron fitting, sort of driver. You're always going to your distance. So with an iron fitting, I will take some static measurement, and it's just as simple as sort of height of the player and their wrist to floor measurement, just standing still, their wrist to floor. And Ping do a nice little chart that tell you the recommended starting point. So it might be half an inch long, 1 degree upright, let's say. So you've kind of got a starting point. But I'm still going to try a different length shaft. I'm still going to try and stick him in an inch long, because if he can play something that's an inch long and still button it every time, then that's going to be beneficial to him. So he's going to be getting extra club head speed.
Yeah.
Okay. But if he can't hit that inch long, we'll work back down to half an inch. But we'll try a couple of different lengths, obviously in the sort of same shaft and head. So the length is the only variable, and we'll test the strike, 3 or 4 shots of each. After that, you go length. I'd look at lie angle. Obviously, lie angle being massively important, but that's not. If you don't go, all right, you're 1 degree up. I'm not going to look at that again. It's just something we're always going to manage, because, like I say, the flex of the shaft can change how much droop you've got. Therefore, you might be more toe down one shaft than another. With different heads, if you've got a really heavy head or something with a massive profile, like a Ping, like a G430, big profile, that's going to more weight towards the toe. It's going to droop a little bit more than what a little blade would. So again, it's something to always be aware of and managing. But yeah, trying to get that sort of lie angle rough that you want it. And then obviously loft of the club. So do they need something a little bit stronger to bring ball flight down? Do they need something a bit weaker to get it up in the air? You could get the same club. As a standard sort of traditional 7-iron being 34 degrees.
Yeah.
If I need that ball flight down, instead of going to a different head, I could just get that 2 degrees strong.
Yeah.
Or could look at different head models. Again, completely dependent on what that.
With the length, with the loft stuff, would you then are you looking at, say, the lowest iron they've got in their bag is a 4-iron? Are you then looking at their next highest club? Maybe it's a 3 hybrid. Are you looking at the gap in there and the gap in between the highest or the lowest lofted wedge? Are you looking in
there? So
yeah.
you're trying to work out where the clubs are going to fit in. Okay, so obviously you're trying to make a bag that's going to work for them. You want every single club in the bag should have a job. So if I was to go, really strong lofted, so that the launch was down, but then his 4-iron was playing 2-iron, can't get it up in the air, that's not going to do him any good. And it also means that there's probably going to be a big gap between his pitching wedge and his next wedge. So then you might go up to a 5-iron and put in a 4 hybrid, 3 hybrid, something along those lines. Yeah, so it is a little bit harder with generally you only sit with a 7-iron.
Yeah.
But what you can do is obviously you get them to hit their 7-iron, then you get them to hit their long stuff, and you can judge, the experienced fitter will be able to judge and tell what a 4-iron in that same set you just fit them into. Is it actually going to benefit them, or do we start looking at hybrids?
Yeah. On the bottom of the bag, this is something I always struggled with, is finding the pitcher, because the lofts keep on getting stronger and stronger, finding the right wedge combination, because I could have a 20-yard gap between pitching wedge and the next loft down, and it just causes complete chaos in between that 20 yards. Is there anything, what would you recommend to people that would have that situation?
Again, it's just something to discuss with the fitter. Is new wedges something that you want, or are you happy with your wedges? Because obviously, if you've got that big gap, then it could just be a case of getting the loft on them bent a little bit, or you get an extra wedge to fill that gap. So you look at some pitching wedges in sets that are sort of 42 degrees now. That's what my 9-iron is. Okay, so if you go from a 9-iron, 42 degrees, to maybe a 50 degree or a 52, you've got a massive gap there. Not only you think you've got a big gap in degrees, but that pitching wedge is probably pretty powerful. It's got a big cavity and it's going to go a long way. So, there might just be a case of sticking an extra wedge in that, or start progressively bending pitching wedge a little bit weaker, the gap wedge a little bit stronger. But again, that comes from a bit from the experience of the fitting.
Miles, I've actually got Ricky in here who is one of the directors of where the studio is, and he's got that issue at the moment because the lofts are stronger. He's like a 44. And then what's your next wedge up, Rick?
48 would be your normal gap when you attack.
Yeah.
48 now.
Then you've got to go 48, haven't you? And then
16.
and then you've got that bigger gap in the wedges. Do you then, some of my highest wedge would be a 58. Some guys like a 60, but now you're going to have to go down to something like a 56 and work it.
Not necessarily. So what I've done with quite a few people is if they've got, say, a 44 degree pitching wedge, they go, 48 degree wedge, you've got 4 degrees there. Then you can go from a 48, get a 52 or a 54 bent to 53. So you've got a 5 yard or a 5 degree gap there. And then you've got a 58, and then you've got another 5 degree gap there. But because, wedges traditionally are a little bit more bladey, a bit more forged, they don't go quite as far. Even though it's a 4 degree gap that goes into a 5, so that's pretty similar, because that pitching wedge, like I say, will be that little bit stronger. It will probably act like a 5 degree gap. So you've got a nice sort of continuation of that gap in.
Right. Before we let you go, I've got 2 final questions. One is, any advice for anyone who goes to a fitting? That is a loose question.
That is a loose question. You get people who get real sort of anxious and nervous and a bit tense. You just got to relax. Okay? I think a big thing I heard ages ago, I can't actually remember where I heard it, but it is the fitter's job to impress you. It's not your job to impress the fitter. Okay, so you just do what you do, and it's his job to make you look good. You've not got to make yourself look good. It's his job to make you look good. You're there for his sort of service or her service. Modern world. So don't be nervous. You just got to relax. What else? I think that's the biggest thing. Just try and enjoy it, really. It should be a fun experience. Ask questions would be another one. Don't walk away from the fitting going, what on earth has happened? Like, I wish I'd have asked this, or if you've got a question, why have we done that? If he can't answer you, he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. If he can't say, I've given
Cowboy.
you more, again,
He's a cowboy.
you're a cowboy, and you do get some. You get some great food. There's a few cows. But yeah, if he can't answer the question, he's not 100% sure what he's doing. He's just sort of guessing. But yeah, ask questions and just try and enjoy it.
Yeah, like you say, I think that's it. It should be an experience when you're going for a fitting. So just take the full experience in. Right, Miles. If anyone wants to come for a fitting with you or get their clubs rebuilt by you, where will they find you?
Miles Richo Golf on Instagram. Obviously, you can find me at Rochester Park Golf Club website. You can book all fittings, all sorts of repairs, lock and light check. I can rebuild clubs. Yeah, whatever you want, I've got it. And coming soon is a YouTube channel. So yeah.
Talk to me. Talk to me.
Yeah, so all of the clubs that are just getting released at the moment, sort of videoing those at the moment, getting some reviews. All these claims that they're more forgiving all around the face. I am sure to test that out. I will test every single part of that face.
You will be king at testing that out for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm going to prop myself up on a third hole of Rochester Club, nice wide par 5, and just bang balls and tell them knackered.
I like it. I like it. Well, it's been a pleasure. I must win that 20 quid off you very soon. So we'll have to have another game soon. But it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for dropping all your custom fitting knowledge. And hopefully it might send some guys your way for some custom fits very, very soon.
Thanks, mate.
No, we'll speak soon.
Have a good one.